officer who says he had a personal relationship with this car here, and as you can see, the window smashed out, some of it spray painted with expletives, which we can't show you. And this is almost like a police car graveyard, if you will. A lot of these cars are damaged. There's probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage, not just here, but across the city. You can take a look at this police cruiser. Spray painted, the windows smashed out, the side of it also damaged and dented. This police cruiser had dents as well. And then if you take a look down that way, you can see just how many police cruisers are here, and I'm willing to bet that most of them have some sort of damage, because a lot of the folks who were protesting and then which turned into rioting came down this street. This is Washington Street here, where we were before. And that police officer, he's African American. He said that this is not something that he wanted to see today at all. He said that there's problems with the racism and police brutality when it comes to certain police officers, but he says that you can't put all police officers under one umbrella. And that's the point that he just wanted to get across to me just now, as he told me about how he has a relationship with his vehicle, that he's been doing this job for more than 30 years, and this makes him want to quit. So that's kind of the other side of the coin. Like I said, we've been playing sound bites from these protesters. That's one from the police officer that we just heard from. He didn't want to go on camera, obviously, but that's what he just told me. He just walked behind me just now. But yeah, we'll give it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Peter.
Thank you, our Peter Eliopoulos live there on the streets of Boston, as we take more live look right there on Boylston Street, I believe. Give me 1 second so I can get my bearings. And there's the police presence right there, and lots of blue lights right there, and the police dogs. The National Guard is on the scene, and we've been seeing the National Guard for the past couple of weeks going into nursing homes, and now this is where they're at. They're on the streets of Boston trying to maintain calm and peace here, but as we have all seen with all of our eyes, it was anything but for the past few hours, and it continues to be in certain areas.
Well, even in that area we just showed you, Maria, there were police officers on one side of the street, and there were protesters on the other side, and there are protesters directly across the street from the policemen you see there on the left, and they're still having a standoff, if you will. Nothing obviously has happened from it, but they're standing there staring at each other. So they're still, it's 11:40 at night, and they're still engaging each other eye to eye.
So it is good to see that basically, and I don't know what the Common looks like now or outside of the State House, but well, just when I think I can say something, I won't say it because I would have been wrong. There are still plenty of people out in the streets in certain areas there, and
well, the other part of it, Mike Wackham, is it going to stay this nice weather-wise tonight? I mean, all right, so it's still 52 degrees, so it's not uncomfortable outside. It's not raining outside, so that creates a problem. We have some video we want to show you. Joe, this is from Tremont Street area. Is that what this is? That's viewer video. Well,
we apologize for that.
Of an explosion in some fashion.
That's Tremont Street. I think that's Emerson right there, right around the corner.
And now they're trying to figure out where it came from. You move. Don't, And if you are curious, the hands up, don't shoot. There you go. It came from the top portion of the screen, but that was it. So there was some video that we got from the viewer. But that's just part of what the police have had to deal with. And again, here it is.
Live.
It's 11:40 at night, and they are still getting their message across.
People holding up signs that they've held all day, Black Lives Matter, and a lot of this, of course, is because of the killing of George Floyd, and that's what you see. You see his name there, and then you see people looting, and there are so many different elements to what's going on the streets of Boston. A peaceful protest, a violent protest.
A riot? I mean, you're right. It accelerated beyond anyone's
worst
fears, perhaps. sure that those anticipated it would be as violent as this. And I use the word violent just in terms of destructive.
On a Sunday night.
On a Sunday night,
This
the
is
last
not
one in May.
Right. Especially now during the pandemic, and there's allegedly there's supposed to be the curfew in place in Boston, and still pretty active in certain spots.
That's a Boylston Street scene. One side of the road, and on the other side of the road there are protesters, Black Lives Matters protesters, and the volume of traffic continues to. Normally in the city you'd see a great number of cars in the street, but not during the last 2.5 months, 3 months.
And again, you see state police vehicles there now assisting Boston police. And then this is exactly what I was trying to say just a few moments ago, is that you see people calmly walking down the street, people who have protested. Some of them made that 3-mile trek from Nubian Square in Roxbury all the way to the State House. And there they are, going back to where it is they live, and there's peace there. And then you can turn the corner and things erupt, or you turn the corner and something's being looted and stolen and taken and destroyed. People's businesses are being destroyed. People's businesses that have already suffered so much during the pandemic. And now they'll wake up tomorrow morning and say, okay, how do I get these windows fixed? Mm-hmm. What is next for
now
me?
Now they have to deal with that. Right.
Now you deal with that. And again, what does the city of Boston look like tomorrow? When the sun comes up and you see.
When, as we've told you, when more people can go into the city and begin to open up some offices.
25% capacity in office buildings.
Is our Nicole Burley still on scene in front of that concept store? Because if she is, I'm curious if they're still emptying out that store, even at 11:43 at night. He's trying to get through. He'll make it through. Todd Kaskevich is on Newbury Street. Todd, we saw some looting at the UGG store. What are you seeing now? There it is.
And that's exactly where we are right now. You look at the front door, it's all smashed in. We're standing in glass, going to try to get out of the way of that. And if you look inside, you can see they toppled over pretty much everything. Anything of value was taken. As we pull out here and look to the left here out front, look down there. Even one of the mannequins toppled over. As we take a little walk here along Newbury Street, we'll see what else we can come up with. Hangers in the street, bags, even look to my left here, there's some shoes. Clearly these are, well, it looks like the new shoes that maybe didn't fit, or they're the old shoes that were exchanged for the stolen shoes. We'll take a little walk here along Newbury Street, and this is now a secured area. State police, and we even saw some officers from Chelsea Police are here, and they have the long batons out. They're certainly ready to restore order. All of the litter you see on the ground, it's shoe boxes, it's bags from inside these stores.
Is it all
the really sad part is it was just last week or so.
It
was just last week or so. You know, we were doing a report on all the retail stores reopening.
Right.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right. I was going to say, is it from the UGG store or other stores damaged along that block?
Other stores as well, Ed, and there's graffiti, there's windows smashed. It's a pretty sad sight to see. At this point, things are pretty calm. There's the street is vehicular traffic, but pedestrians here, people taking in the scene, looking at the damage, shocked by what they see in their own city. And as we approach this intersection here, Newbury and Clarendon, obviously you see the police in riot gear. And this is what it's come to tonight. Okay, yeah, this is as far as they're going to let us go, so we'll stop here.
Todd,
but obviously it's the same scene further down Newbury Street.
Todd, is it possible for you to go back down to that UGG
Go ahead, Maria.
I'm sorry. Is it possible for you to go back down to that UGG store and just give us another, just a good look inside, or did you just walk a good block there? I don't want to make you do that again.
Absolutely, we'll head back down there. Oh no, it's that's what tonight's all about. We're just taking in the scene and surveying the damage.
And that's interesting what you said about this.
It's as if a natural disaster has hit,
right.
and and you have to survey the damage. And the sad part is, this is and you see all the debris on the ground. Those are boxes from all these stores. That's not just trash that was discarded from someone's car or a trash bag.
Right.
And you said, Todd, that they're not
making our way back to the UGG store now.
Yeah, they're not allowing people down the street. You can't get. I mean, you got to this block, but they're not allowing people on the street, huh?
Yeah, they closed it down, so I guess we're sort of limited to a certain section of the trade. Here's another store. This is
Barber store, yeah.
Barber. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Maybe it's Barbour. You see the front window there, all smashed in. There's actually some merchandise left in there, which is good to see. But here again, you see one of the mannequins.
Wow.
Out here on the ground, just left there. The looting didn't discriminate. A lot of high-end places, and obviously a lot of convenience stores as well. But here on Newbury Street, it's predominantly high-end stores. And this is the scene.
Right up there
it's just smashed glass everywhere. People obviously grabbing whatever in the store, Maria. And what you see here, just all smashed glass. And we'll give you another look there inside.
There you go.
And
that's Dan Lane with
you.
It's just
all
Thank
glass, broken glass. I don't see any merchandise really.
That
maybe
store
a couple of pairs of
out.
shoes.
That's what I
store
wanted
is
to see.
cleaned out.
That's what I thought when you first showed it. Yep. So that store has been cleaned out, and it's interesting, Todd, because a lot of stores, Macy's for one, they boarded things up earlier, much earlier, in anticipation that this could be a possibility. And now we see that it's not only a possibility, it is a reality.
Yes. And the really sad part, as we've been reporting all along, is a lot of these stores, if not all of these stores, have been closed for the past couple of months. And now they're on the verge of reopening. I just want to draw your attention back to Newbury Street. We see a long line of police vehicles, blue lights activated. They are clearly standing by. At this point, it's not clear to us what the mission is, what the location, the destination is. But it is very clear that police are going to get control back of the city in all of the areas where, it was mayhem for a time tonight.
For a long time tonight, it was. And like we said, perhaps around 9 o'clock is when it all started, and then here we are at 10 minutes to 12. And it's just, it is still flaring in certain hotspots. Todd, thank you for the tour of Newbury Street. Thank you.
Todd, thank you so much. So the governor is tweeting now at this hour at 11:49, and I'm going to get that for you right now in 1 second. Let you know what he says. We told you what Marty.
The murder of George Floyd. I'll read that. The murder of George Floyd at the hands of police was a horrible tragedy. One of the countless tragedies to befall people of color across the United States. The vast majority of protesters today did so peacefully toward a common goal of promoting justice and equality. I am deeply thankful for their voices and their positive, forceful message. I also want to express my gratitude to all police officers and first responders working to protect the people of Boston from the individuals whose violent actions, looting and property destruction was criminal and cowardly and distracted from the powerful statement made today by thousands of Massachusetts residents. That was from the governor.
And Boston police continue to tweet, and they continue to ask people to get out of the city, and peaceful protesters, please leave the city right now. But we have seen in certain spots that is not happening. Let's go to our Peter Eliopoulos, who is live again. And Peter, this is for people who may be just joining us or who just joined us later this evening, you were in Nubian Square since at what time?
Let's see, we got there at around 2 o'clock, I think it was, and around 2:33 is when the first group started showing up, and the people who got there first were people who were taking safety really seriously. They were wearing vests, and they were the ones who really acted as the police escorts, if you will, along that protest and the demonstration route along Washington Street throughout the city. Instead of having police lining every single street corner, making sure no one drove in and ran people over, they had them at the other end, and then they had those people instead standing there, and they lined the protest route instead of having the police. And then as that happened, they went down Washington Street, and we went down Washington Street 3 miles rather. It took about 2 hours, and then we came over here to where we are right now. We're on Tremont Street. The State House is right over there, and at 9 o'clock tonight, which is when that not the shelter in place, the stay-at-home curfew goes into effect in the city of Boston for the coronavirus. That's also right around time that it really started getting dark out, and that's where things really escalated and they started to deteriorate, because what was once peaceful out at the Common, out at the State House, was no longer peaceful. And we saw people tearing down street signs right here. I mean, here's just one example. I mean, this was standing upright today, and we'll go for a little walk. We'll show you. I know Todd was just now as well, but this is a salon right here, and it was the front glass awning shattered, and the side window as well was also shattered. We just saw someone coming over here and kicking this in just for the sake of it, and you can hear it. It looks like it wants to maybe come down, so we'll step back, but that just kind of underscores what we've been seeing today. This is a small portion of it, but what I bring us back to is that this once started very peaceful. Everyone was peaceful. Everyone had safety at the forefronts of their minds, and then things started to deteriorate, and then things were no longer peaceful. It turned into a riot, which then turned to looting, which Todd just showed you just now. But that's where things stand right now. I will say that things have really dissipated. We'll take a look onto Tremont Street, which was once filled with people, and there's hardly anyone here anymore. And this is where we also saw earlier on in the newscast where you saw someone mow down with their car several people. We saw that. We saw them mow down at least one person, and then I had witnesses. You just saw those fireworks go off over there. Witnesses say they saw 5 people hit by that car, and then people are still out here, I guess, lighting off fireworks and such. We did hear tear gas a little while ago, but largely in comparison to what we were seeing before, when there were thousands and thousands of people lining Washington Street throughout the city of Boston, that's no longer the case. People are going home, although there's this big group of people, I'm not sure where they're coming from. They weren't here a few minutes ago, but yeah,
Peter,
that's you guys in the studio.
Sure. Just when we say, oh, it looks like things are lightening up and the crowds are really thinned out, and this is exactly what happens, and then you just saw the fireworks going off behind you there. But this is obviously peaceful at this moment. And right around the corner, Newbury and Boylston Street, we saw Newbury Street is now shut down, right?
Yeah,
people.
It's been isolated and protected. You can't get through the area.
Right, and we watched.
This is the largest group of people we've seen for a while.
Yeah, you're right, Ed. You're right. And it was so interesting what Todd was bringing up, and it's just mind-boggling. But the trash on the streets are either things that were being thrown back and forth, police and protesters, or they're boxes of items that have been stolen right out of stores all evening long. And that's what you see. So that cleanup will have to happen as well.
I go back to those images from Minneapolis that we showed on camera with the officer with his knee on the head of George Floyd, and the heart-wrenching last words of George Floyd, and the profound effect that has had on the entire United States. It really has, not just Minneapolis.
Like you said, beyond.
From Houston, not just you. It's had an effect on everyone. Yeah, and beyond, right. It's reached London, it's reached Denmark.
So people are still trickling through the streets here of Boston as you continue to look live just before midnight. And again, a reminder that tomorrow was supposed to be the day in that city of Boston where some things were slowly going to start to open. They were going to go to 25% capacity and some businesses there, and people were trying to pick out their takeout game and hope that would happen. And we've seen restaurants smashed.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Banging on the glass there. This is what, Arlington and Boylston, right?
Yep. And then you see that the window to the left is boarded up, but this one isn't. So that one's now being attacked.
Or did they just take the board off that window?
Oh, maybe they did. Perhaps they did.
There's the board right there.
Oh. So they're taking the boards down and using them as a way to get into these stores. But now we see a lot of people running.
Police showing up right now.
So the Four Seasons is right around the corner from there. Well, that's the Arlington T station right there.
A number of police, far more police on the scene of that than there were looters, and they scattered.
And I'm not sure that they were able to get in.
At least the ones that we saw were not able to get in. I don't know if anyone else did, certainly.
Exactly. So Arlington Street becoming a crime scene. All of these little places, Newbury Street, Boylston Street, all of these stores damaged, restaurants. I think Peter was sitting in front of a hair salon, and hair salons were just allowed to reopen with special protections and provisions, and now it's a whole new ball game tomorrow morning. And how do they recover from this, from all this damage? And they have to start again with that.
Yeah, when you think of what 2020 has done in just a short 5 months or so now.
And look at all of the traffic still. Clarendon Wine.
Yeah, this is
Smashed.
Clarendon Wine.
Sorry about the language, everybody. You're looking live again at another business that's been destroyed. Not destroyed, but at that moment it's been attacked, if you will. Some businesses have been destroyed. And a lot of cars on the streets of Boston.
A lot of cars. I mean, it's midnight, and a lot of cars turning down, coming up toward you from Boylston, turning down to Arlington.
We try to give you a sense of exactly where you are and where all of this has been. And it's really impacted so many parts of the city. So we saw those people get run over in certain areas right near Chinatown. And we saw everything that was going on at the State House, and now we're at Arlington Street. And, you know, if you've grown up here or have lived here, these are streets that I'm looking at the area of Emerson, and I'm thinking, oh, I just brought my daughter to college, or I went to college on the other side of that. And those are your memories. And then you look and you see all of this that's happening, and this is the new way you're looking at it through this lens. Through this lens of this destruction that's come out of this really what was by all accounts a peaceful protest. Let's go to our Todd Kaskevich, who is on Newbury Street. Yes, Todd, are you still on Newbury Street? I actually don't know where you are. I'm sorry about that.
Well, Maria, we're here on Boylston Street. This is Clarendon Wine. As you can see, this is one of the many stores that has been looted tonight. The front door smashed in, and a lot of alcohol. As a result, you see just a few bottles of juice there on the ground. And over to my left, if you look here on the ground, you see a couple things of note, including the drawer from the cash register itself. So obviously, that was looted. There's a couple of packs of cigarettes on the ground. Just a short time ago, within eyesight of the Boston police officers who are keeping watch over this, a man came over within eyesight of the officers picked up a pack of cigarettes and tried to take it away. Obviously, they didn't let that happen, and they informed him that was in fact looting and that was illegal. But it gives you a sense of just how bold people are, even though the mob has moved on. The reason why we're over here on Boylston, by the way, we had been on Newbury Street, and the police wouldn't let us go any further than Clarendon, and so we decided to come up this side of Boylston so we could see if we can get all the way to the other end of Newbury and get a sense of how things look over there. And on our way, we stumbled upon this liquor store that has been looted. This is right here on Boylston, really in the midst of Copley Square, and people had the audacity to just break right in to this small business and help themselves to whatever alcohol they wanted. Truly a sad scene, but this is one of many that we've seen here tonight. Ed, Maria?
And Todd, we continue to say it, but that's a business that has seen decreased traffic. Their businesses, a lot of businesses reported they've been down 60, 70, 80, 90% of their business. And then tomorrow morning, all their cigarettes are gone. You just showed us. A lot of their alcohol is gone. Their windows are smashed. And now they have to pick up those pieces. Yes, a lot of people have insurance, but really it's just so damaging emotionally as well when you look at that and you think, okay, now I have to deal with that.
Absolutely, Maria. And, the sad irony here is this started as a protest against perceived injustice, right? And then it has ended with an injustice against another innocent person. It's hard to wrap your mind around that, but that's the situation that we have here tonight. And we're seeing it time and again. We saw it on Newbury Street, a lot of the higher-end stores, but this is a small business, This is not one of those high fashionable stores. And unfortunately, the mob was did not discriminate. They just looted whatever they could get. And in this case, it was alcohol and it was cigarettes. So we're going to continue walking along and see what else we can find here tonight. But obviously, there's a whole lot of cleanup to be done tomorrow. Sure. There's a whole lot of damage. There's a whole lot of loss, further economic loss to this city as a result of this here tonight.
Well put, Todd. Be safe, please, as you make that journey down. Let's go to our Sharman Sacchetti right now. Sharman, you're with the National Guard?
That's right. I'm here at the corner of Tremont and Boylston Street, and you can see the line of National Guardsmen right here behind me, just sort of blocking off that street to common traffic. There's a lot of traffic here on Boylston next to me. Over here on the left, this is what we have. This is a remnant of this protest. This big broken windows. They're boarding these up right now, trying to make that at least a little bit safe and protected until they can repair it. So a lot of anger, I've been out here all day. We were here at 3 p.m. when the protest started on Government Center, and they were largely peaceful. And then the one at the State House was largely peaceful. And then it all turned. It all turned a few hours ago, and we saw police cars backing down Beacon Street with people throwing objects at it. We saw fires burning at the Common and the Public Garden. And now you're hearing fireworks. Let's say fireworks behind us. In fact, just a couple of minutes ago, we saw more being thrown into the street. And so that's what the city is right now. The National Guard is here. Its presence is here, and it is felt certainly, and likely police will get some help from them tonight. We're live here at Tremont Boylston, Sharman Sacchetti, WCVB.
Sharman, we've had a wonderful opportunity to see the great pictures that you all have provided us tonight. Tell me what the feel is like in the city, the tension, the pressure, the feel in the city when this was happening.
I mean, it changed, Ed. I was up on Beacon Hill. We were at the State House. There was a protest underway. People were kneeling on the ground in silence. I got a very passionate interview with a woman who really felt strongly about this. And then it changed. It was like when it got a little bit dark out, that's when things started to shift. And the vibe kind of is a little scary out here right now, if I could say that. It's people are angry. There's a lot of anger out there. And it's certainly palpable in the air. People feel emboldened right now. These fine folks are are boarding up their broken windows right now, and we apologize for some of that language that's happening. You know, we do our best here on live TV, and so there is definitely a lot of anger out there, a lot of people who are very passionate right now about this issue. Let's go ahead and send it back to you.
All right, Charmin, thank you very much. Charmin Zucchetti is at the corner of Tremont in Boylston, and there is a person who has just loaded his or her arms with every jacket that they could find.
Oh my goodness.
And they're coming out of the stores now with, I can't see what the store is.
Dorothy, who's there? Sean Chayabat? Let's go to Sean Chayabat.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, all right. We're right outside of Copley Place here, and obviously people have smashed through the doors here. There have been dozens upon dozens of people going in and out. They're pulling up with their cars. In fact, I saw people with large buckets, trash cans, wheeling out of the mall here, absolutely looting the entire mall. People have stolen so much that they've left some behind because they have their arms completely full. And there is no semblance of any police presence here at this point. And it just is a free-for-all. And unfortunately, it is a total free-for-all. So again, we keep on having more cars that are pulling up, stopping, leaving their cars running as they run in and steal and pilfer from all of these stores. So you can see as people are walking out with bags and bags, it's like they did their own shopping, bagged their own items with the bags that are in the store and are leaving. This is crime on live television happening without any regard for what they're doing. Well, obviously the concern is here. They see us. Our camera is here, right across the street. We're obvious. They don't care. If you look to the left, there's more people running in.
This guy's right in front of you.
You know what's interesting? You see the jackets here, but see the security stuff. So they've obviously gone in and cut all of those things,
Right.
and stolen all of that. And
That's
wonder, right.
And Sean, it amazes me the steady stream of people in and out. It's 12:08 in the morning.
This is as if it was a 2-for-1 sale here. I mean, this is just people coming in as if this is their own personal shopping place, and it's everything's free.
You hear the police now. The question is, where are the police?
No.
We've seen.
I hear signs, but the sirens are blocks and blocks away. So
Right.
There's nothing here. There are no police here right now.
So
there
we
are,
watch
in
this
fact,
all-
police across. Let me tell you that there are police across the street.
Right.
There were police across the street, but they were guarding another building and not doing anything. So I'm not entirely sure what.
That's Neiman Marcus, by the way.
How long this is going to go on? So, I'm sorry.
No, we're just describing
saying
the
that
scene.
it was Neiman Marcus that we were watching, and then people just taking items by the armfuls, just stealing from these stores.
And that activity has been going on for a number of hours now already. We have seen a number of it. Jewelry stores in downtown Crossing, clothing stores here.
To the Walgreens, where people were
To the
taking
Walgreens.
toilet paper.
There's a guy who has 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes of shoes in his hand, all outside of Copley Plaza.
This is mayhem now, and there's still a lot of cars on the streets, and people are going in with bags, going in taking bags, filling up bags, and just flat out stealing on live television. Let's get to our Todd Kaskevich. Todd, are you still on Boylston?
Maria, we're on Boylston near Exeter Street. We're still trying to make our way parallel along Boylston, along Newbury, I should say. But clearly there's a scene here. You see the Boston EMS ambulance coming through. Back to the right, you see that SWAT vehicle up there. And we've seen a lot of damage here on Boylston as well, just as we have the rest of our walk. The scene here, it just feels a little more tense than what we've seen over the past few minutes. We know that obviously not everyone has gone home. Not all crowds have dissipated. We're hearing a lot of horns honking, a lot of people screaming. So we're going to walk a little bit closer and see if we can get a sense of what's going on here. Again, this is Boylston Street, and we're next to the Lord & Taylor store, so most people are probably familiar with that as a landmark. But a large police presence here still at this hour, and we're finally seeing more police than rioters at this point. But we see police with long guns, with the dogs out. Clearly at this point, it is time to restore order, and that seems to be what is happening at this hour.
Doug, you use the word tense. It feels more tense even at 12, 11 in the morning, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of surprising, because you would have thought that, things had been, dissipating and the situation seemed to be a little more calm, but yet at this point, there are people still here and still amped up. And there's a much larger police presence here now than we've seen earlier. So just to give you a sense of some of the agencies that we're seeing here and why there is such a large police presence, the NEMLEC officers are here. So those come from various police departments. You might be able to see to the right of our camera position there, you see a Lawrence police cruiser. So clearly this was a mutual aid situation that just, as we all saw on live TV, just got it way out of hand tonight very quickly.
Doug Kaskiewicz was on Boylston Street. There are the marathon works of art. You can see right in front, right there. That gives you an idea where he is.
So as Todd just said, things are starting. They're still tense out there, and we have seen looting like I've never seen. Copley Place, Neiman Marcus,
Downtown
the UGG store, downtown crossing, from Walgreens to the UGG store to jewelry stores, and people just going right in on live television and smashing windows.
That concept store on Boylston Street, cars pulling up in front, dropping people off, and people filling up their arms, filling up their bags, filling up whatever. These people are absolutely identifiable.
And you see a lot of the stolen merchandise, but with the security things still on them. A box of stolen merchandise right there.
In his hands, right there, and he's just taken off. Peter Eliopoulos has been in the city all night long. Peter?
Yeah, and we're following the National Guard right now. They were just lining the street. That was Essex Street where we just were, and now they're walking down Essex Street. They just moved everybody because there was a large explosion over here. Now this is where we were earlier, where that Walgreens was looted in that car that was covered in toilet paper there. And it sounds like folks are trying to get through over here. Now, we just saw a Humvee with a National Guard Humvee go by, as well as a school bus with Department of Corrections written on it. So it may seem like they are going to start making some arrests here when you bring in a bus that large, if they haven't been making arrests so far tonight. But let's take a walk a little bit more this way. We can see. Hey, we'll move over here for a second, and we'll send it back. We'll send it back to you guys.
Okay.
All right, be safe.
Okay, be safe. So we noticed that there are Belmont Police, Lexington Police. So as we were saying a little bit earlier, they're now Boston Police, National Guard, Mass State Police, getting this assist from area police departments, and because as Todd Kaskiewicz just said, order needs to be restored in the city of Boston. And at this hour, at 12:15, it is not. It is not. People are looting the stores there. They are taking things. They are causing destruction of property up and down the streets of Boston. And this is all the end of this, what was a peaceful protest that ended at the State House. And all of these hours later, we continue to see fires, looting, destruction, and all of those things.
12:16 in the morning. It is Monday morning. It is June 1st. It's a new month. And it's yet at this point in time, if you look at the city from where that helicopter is, it may not look as tense as it has been. But if you look at it from the street, it is still tense this early Monday morning, late Sunday night, however you want to call it. Todd Kaskiewicz is right there. Todd?
Well, Ed, we're here on Boylston Street, and again, this is basically right next to Lord and Taylor. You see a large police presence here. This seems to be a mobilization point, if you will, for NEMLAC and for some heavily armed officers. And some of them have actually deployed to other locations here in the past couple of minutes. We see some walking down the street right now. You see they have the long shields, they have the ballistic helmets, and obviously the vests. We saw some. We believe National Guard troops on a Department of Correction bus. We also saw a Humvee roll down the street a few minutes before that. So, clearly at this point, the time for protesting, peaceful protesting, is over, because that ended on its own and it turned into a riot. And it is time for order to be restored. And, as you've been pointing out, it is kind of surprising that at this hour, there are still people out, and would-be agitators are out. And clearly that is not going to be tolerated. And clearly enough damage has been done and enough harm has been inflicted on our city. And so it's time. It's time to just restore order.
Folks, if you don't know, we've made references to, and you've seen NEMLAC on the screen. It stands for Northeastern Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council. So it's a conglomerate. So that's what it stands for.
We just saw Revere Police as
Revere
well.
Police, yeah.
Look at
There's
the
Lawrence
traffic,
Police.
Ed. Unbelievable. So the streets of Boston, a number of them, are still filled with police and National Guard and some protesters and a lot of cars and a lot of this. There's been a lot of looting going on. People just going right into the stores, taking every single thing that they could possibly fit into their arms, grabbing bags, filling their bags, and stealing from one business after another, businesses that have really been hurt so deeply by the coronavirus pandemic because they haven't been allowed to open because we're supposed to be socially distancing.
Mm-hmm. Sean Chibut's right there. Sean, they're still looting away, I can see.
Yeah, we've been here for over 20 minutes now, and it is a constant stream of people coming in, arms full of stuff. I actually saw a couple of people who went in, they parked their car, came out with stuff, put stuff in their car, and went back into the mall to loot again. There is absolutely no fear of the crime that they're committing. We did see 2 police vehicles drive by a short time ago with their lights and sirens on, slow as they saw throngs of looters leaving the Copley Place Mall, but then continue going. At this point, unfortunately, this is a free-for-all. More people are continuing to drive up and park their cars in the middle of the street, obviously with the intention of going into this mall and continuing to steal. And there's some folks that are still trying to just break the glass, do whatever damage they can. Even, senseless violence that doesn't seem to have any purpose here, guys. This is certainly not the peaceful protest that we were looking at just a few hours ago.
For most of the night, Sean.
Right, you were with the protesters. You were walking with them.
We were there. It is so disheartening when you speak to the people who were in that crowd and hear the voices that they were trying to get out to the world, their message that they were trying to get out, and now this. To see the 2 polar opposites within just a few hours, you have to wonder what those people are thinking, who are now sitting at home after having marched for miles to try to get a message across.
Right.
You have to wonder what they're sitting and thinking about all of these people who might have been marching right alongside them for hours as well. And now this.
And now this. Can you
people walking out with arms full of stuff.
Marty Walsh will be making public remarks at noon tomorrow.
Sean, tell everybody exactly where you are, just in case people have just clicked on at 12:21. Exactly where you are. Set the scene and take us there.
Yeah, we're at Copley Place. We're across the street from Copley Place, where this is basically Neiman Marcus. I can't imagine that there's anything left there inside Neiman Marcus, but you still have people trying to go in and take things from the mall here. We've been here for nearly half an hour now, and people are running into the store. They're parking their cars on the street, abandoning their cars just so they can go in and continue to loot and steal from whatever is left in this mall. We got here again about half hour ago, and it was going just as strongly as it is now. It's been constant. The police have come by, but haven't stopped, haven't tried to break up any of the looting that's going on here. Obviously, they have probably some bigger fish to fry right now. But there's no sense of order. There's no sense of control here. Not at all.
So you've been there for half an hour, and this has just continued.
Unchecked, by the way.
It's
Completely unchecked, right?
actually, I want to direct your attention, if you can see, there are now some police vehicles. As we mentioned that, some police vehicles that are now pulling up, and there are actually some. There we go. There's some police in full gear rounding the corner around Copley Place Mall here.
Good.
Yes, guys. So now they're rounding the corner, walking up, and people are scattering. But there are, if you can believe it or not, some people still going into the mall as we speak.
Really?
As we speak.
With this in their lines of sight. Yeah.
With this, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. They rounded the corner, they saw the police, and they went around to the other side of the mall at the other doors.
So you were there about a half an hour, and just now this has happened, and a lot of the damage has been done. We've been watching. All of these people come out with armloads of merchandise over and over and over again.
Yeah. And you can see that the police here have the weapons in orange, bright orange weapons. So obviously those are the non-lethal weapons that they have. They are chasing them off. People are running. So this is finally some order that's being tamped down here, whatever was happening previously. This is quite a change. Again, we were here for about a half an hour, and it was nonstop. So you have to imagine that it had been going on for hours before that, because we saw the throngs of people that were in these marches, and then we saw people breaking off for hours. We didn't know where anybody was going, but then we heard about these hotspots that were popping up all over.
Right.
So now we see.
In our picture, Sean, we could see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 police vehicles there. So they were obviously loaded with people to respond to this wherever. But you're right. For this one entrance, or the one entrance around the corner, there are 3 more in the back of the building that they got to cover as well. And they're standing there waiting for them to come out.
A lot of these vehicles that you can see now leaving here, a lot of these vehicles were the ones that were parked on the side of the road, leaving their cars abandoned so that they can go in and steal from Copley Place. So now there's a logjam of vehicles trying to leave, scattering when the police came.
Sean Chiabat, in the city of Boston, it's 12:25 in the morning on Monday, June 1st, and this is what's happening. Peter Eliopoulos has been on the street all night long. Peter?
Yeah, and it's things are definitely quieting down, but still a large police presence here, and we are seeing some skirmishes when police and protesters will kind of face off. And I'll let you take a look here. We'll show you some things. This is the line right now. This is Essex Street and Harrison Street, and if you want to take a look a little bit closer, if you zoom in there, you can see the windows of that business have been shattered out. There's another window to the side of it too, shattered out. I'm not sure what's in there, but yeah, we're in Chinatown right now, and lots of these businesses have been have graffiti on them. Others have had windows smashed out. Others have had things stolen from them, and this is a community that's really been hurting throughout the majority of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, obviously, all businesses have been dealing with some struggles over the past couple of months since many things have been closed. But then before those businesses did have to close, the Chinatown community here was really struggling because people weren't going there because of the coronavirus. So now add this on top of it, they're running into even more issues where they've had their businesses looted, they've had their businesses tagged with graffiti, and then the damage from various broken windows and things of that nature. Now, I do want to walk a little bit this way, and we'll kind of show you. So just now, a large group of police officers was right behind us. Now they've moved down there. That's the contingency of bicycle officers, and it's combined of both state police and Boston police, and they've kind of been riding around the city to where there's a hot spot, so to speak, when people set off fireworks or start looting or doing things of that nature. I know you were talking about the partnership with several local departments in the area. We did just see a Lexington police cruiser, so we do know that there are other departments here assisting Boston police and state police during all of this right now, in addition to the National Guard, which I think Sean was mentioning, or maybe Todd, that they also saw that Humvee come through with the Department of Corrections bus on it, and several troops that are now in here trying to disperse the crowds. They've kind of been working their way outwards from where we were in Chinatown, and also in the theater district near Tremont Street in Boylston. But right now, anytime that people come in contact with police, they do tend to shy away at this point. Over the past half hour or so, we've tried to stay closer to police because the majority of people out here at this point, they're not looking to protest anymore. They're more or less just looking for trouble, and we're trying to stay safe as it now crosses 12:30 in the morning here. So that's the latest from where we are in Chinatown. We'll send it back to you, Ed and Maria.
That's a good point, Peter. You know, people on the streets right now aren't looking to continue their protest. This is something far beyond that. We're back at Neiman's again, and we had just shown you the arrival on scene of the law enforcement officials, and now they're just standing there. They're waiting for whomever to come out, and a lot of people have just been pouring into that place.
And we continue to say it, that this was a day of peaceful protests from Nubian Square to the State House. And of course, this is all centering around George Floyd, as we've continued to say over and over and over again. And the killing of George Floyd has sparked these protests all across the nation, really, and actually all across the world today. And now we're seeing it here in Boston in so many different ways, and the reaction in so many different ways.
Well, and it's almost a shame if the actions of a number of criminals would take attention away from the reality of and the really important message of the taking of the life of George Floyd. Todd Kaskiewicz has been walking around the city. Where have you walked to now, Todd?
Well, Ed, we're still on Boylston Street right behind me. You see Crate and Barrel. They are now in the process of boarding it up. And in the foreground, you see some of the National Guard military police members who are guarding the scene here. This is something we're seeing play out time and again, where there's been damage and they have to board up, and now it has to be guarded. And there's something else that's quite remarkable I want to draw your attention to. We're going to spin around and show you the other side of Boylston Street. You'll see some Lynn police cruisers. Ignore those. Look further to the right, and look at those military Humvees on Boylston Street in Boston. It's quite stark, especially in view of the fact that because of this pandemic, for the past 2 months or so, the city has been so quiet and so empty, and it is so full of life tonight and so full of the wrong kind of life, that we have to have the National Guard, military police in Boston right now, helping Boston police and state police restore order. So that's the situation that we're seeing here. There's a traffic jam because of all of the people who are in town right now. And obviously there's a large police presence to restore order. So that's what we're seeing at this point. We're going to continue walking along Boylston. And actually, you know, it's quite remarkable. If we step out just a little bit here into the street, it'll be safe here if we go this far down. As far as you can see there, it's just police cruiser after police cruiser with the emergency lights activated. So clearly, Boston is the focus of the state tonight. Mutual Aid is here. The NEMLEC team is here. The National Guard is here. And so whatever mayhem that may still be unfolding is obviously going to be short-lived. And it's time for the riots to stop and order to be restored. Ed, Maria?
Our Todd Cat Stevens. Todd, thank you so much. There's an update from the Mass State Police. They have just released this information saying that they do continue to hold the perimeter at the State House, and they've also deployed additional Mass State Police assets to assist Boston Police downtown, mainly now in the area and the areas that we've been showing you, Boylston Street, Newbury Street, and Arlington Streets. Also assisting, as we've been showing you as well, Massachusetts National Guards, men and women, local police, and Mass State Police reporting a second arrest. There was a protester who jumped the fence outside of the State House and tried to get onto State House.
We have video of that, as a matter of fact, yeah. This is the scene that we were talking about with Sean Chai about for a better part of 10 or 12 minutes or so, watching the looters go in and out and in and out. You know, that was the busiest spot in Boston for a long period of time. But it is now back to being a ghost town because it's back under control again. Meanwhile, the looters had gotten out with as much stuff as they could get out with.
Right, and we watched that on live television, and you saw people, one person after another, just stealing and looting and taking everything that they could. Now
we saw it a couple of places too. Cars would pull up, people would get out, people would run in, load up with bits they can't, get back in the car and drive away. And it was just like drive up, pick up, take off.
And what you see on, this is what we were mentioning before, on the streets of Boston, all these boxes and bags, and they're from storefronts that have been broken into and from merchandise that has been stolen. And the streets of Boston are littered with all of that stuff right now. And what we saw a few hours earlier were people there standing, holding signs saying Black Lives Matter and remember George Floyd, and there was a message, and an important message to these people that they wanted people to hear, that's why they made that trek all those miles through the streets of Boston. And now that message stands with all of those people who wanted to impart it, and this is also another message that's being sent.
Let's take a look at some of the images that are coming into our newsroom. This is a transit vehicle car, windshield completely smashed. You can see right in the middle of it. This is the back end of a vehicle. The back window just completely gone, smashed out to smithereens. That's another windshield. Damage on both sides of the windshield, the driver's side and the passenger side. Some spray paint all over that car. The driver's window damage. That's a Boston police car. We showed you earlier a cruiser that was a Boston police cruiser that was actually burned. So a number of things destroyed, and obviously things can be replaced, which brings it full circle back to George Floyd. George Floyd is gone from us, and that's the reminder that shouldn't get smothered by what has happened here in the last 3.5 hours.
The governor just released a statement, and we'd like to read that to you. If we could show that to you, and we'd be happy to share that with you. The governor saying the murder of George Floyd at the hands of police, Ed mentioned this just a short time ago, was a horrible tragedy, one of the countless tragedies to befall people of color across the United States. The vast majority of protesters today did so peacefully toward a common goal of promoting justice and equality. And he goes on to say, I'm deeply thankful for their voices and their positive, forceful message. I also want to express my gratitude to all the police officers and the other first responders working to protect the people of Boston from the individuals whose violent actions, looting, and property destruction was criminal and cowardly, and distracted from the powerful statement made today by thousands of Massachusetts residents. And that, of course, is from Governor Charlie Baker, who tweeted that just a short time ago.
But that's a good point. It was, for the longest time, a powerful message delivered by thousands of thoughtful people here in Massachusetts. Peacefully.
We know because we were here and we watched it happen, and we followed that line all the way through, and that's what it was. So now they're going in with the dogs. And
well, as you know, that's a lot of square footage. It's not just
sure
that
is.
store, but there's a lot of room in there.
So that's Copley Square and Neiman Marcus area, and all we don't know how many stores,
right?
Because the windows were broken in the front, and how they could how the looters who went in, where else they went, we do not know the answer to that question. But we did see one person after another taking a lot of items out and stealing them and going on their way. And now at 12:36 in the morning, they're going in and they're wondering if anybody's in there. And in a lot of cases, in a lot of these places, the damage has been done.
Peter Eliopoulos, bring us up to speed.
Well, we did see someone arrested a few minutes ago, and I believe that they're in that wagon that you're looking at right now, and they're probably about to drive off. We did see a few people that were talking to police. One person definitely in custody. Not sure what for, but that's what that wagon's doing there. And if you look further on, you can see the National Guard troops that are still trying to hold the line around where we are in Chinatown right now. Not a whole lot has changed since we last spoke to you, but we're basically surrounded by police on all four sides, and they've been slowly pushing outward from where we are, because this area has already been heavily damaged, looted, spray painted, and everything else. So that's where things stand right now. These police officers here, I'm not sure what their next move is. They've been here for quite some time right now too. But yeah, that's where things stand with us right now.
Thank you very much, Peter Eliopoulos, who's been in the city all night long, who has walked the length of the city. Is this live or video? This is live at the Boston Public Library, and there's obviously a person on the ground.
We don't know exactly what is happening.
We don't know what for, right? Exactly. It would appear that the person is being arrested, but you never assume. But you're watching it, and then those police officers are in control of him or her, and then the other police officers are moving up the street. So there are still flash points, there are still touch points, there's still hot points. That's just one of them.
As we look live right now, and we've been with you really all day. We've been here all day, and we've seen so many different things happen and so many twists and turns of what's happened, and this is just another element of what has happened.
Is that what Todd Kaskiewicz, are you right there?
I am, Ed, and as you can see, a large group of people walking down Boylston Street here. And they have some words to say, and they have some gestures to show. We apologize if any of it is inappropriate. They're quite amped up. We apologize for some of the gestures you're seeing on screen here right now. For the most part, police are just kind of sweeping them down the street, and they're not interfering with them walking down the street. So at this point, that seems to be the strategy, is just kind of let them go and kind of force them to go in one direction and allow them to do that. But at this point, it seems to be under control. We do have an officer who just took something in his hand. It was a brick? Okay. So an officer did disarm one of them who had a brick in their hand. And so that was that obviously could have been used as a dangerous weapon, and that was narrowly averted. So that's the situation now. It looks like the crowd, for the most part, has now passed our position. I would guess, rough estimate, maybe 50 to 100 people, somewhere in there. And again, the police allowed them to pass this location, and they're continuing along Boylston Street. So that's the situation now. We'll keep you posted as the night progresses of what else we see at Maria.
All right, Todd Kaskiewicz, thank you. We saw somebody being taken into custody.
A couple of people, yeah.
You wondered, you say, you would expect more people, considering all of the looting that we saw this evening, that we witnessed on live television.
That's where they are. We saw two put in the back of that transport vehicle. There was already someone else in there, at least one. So they are taking people away, and obviously the numbers of people that are going to be arrested or will face charges in this is far greater than what we're able to show live or show right there.
And again, this is hours and hours after this protest broke up, if you will, and then you saw things go from the State House and then go right into Downtown Crossing. Downtown Crossing was an extreme hot spot for a short time there, and you saw a lot of activity there, and then everything moved to the Common and to the Garden, and then
Fireworks is still going up.
and this is Downtown Crossing earlier.
This is about what time would you say, Joe? Would you imagine around 9 o'clock, 9:30 or so? Somewhere in that ballpark. So we're talking that's about 3 hours or so ago.
So that was Downtown Crossing, and that was definitely really intense there. And then we saw the looting going on down there, and then we saw fires being set and police vehicles being set on fire. And so you had fire engines out there trying to put all that out as well. And it was just chaos. And then you're on Newbury Street, and you see this happening, and people going into places and knocking things down and taking things out, and all on live television.
I was just watching those. I was watching those people come out of that building just as the dog was looking right at them. We told you this before. We read you the words the mayor said, but here they are on the screen, so you can see them. I want to thank the protesters who exercised their right to free speech effectively and peacefully, making sure that everyone hears their message. Tonight's protests were motivated by a righteous desire for equality, justice, and accountability in our country. I see you. I hear you. I will use my voice for you. I am angered, however, by the people who came into our city and chose to engage in acts of destruction and violence, undermining their message. If we are to achieve change and if we are to lead the change, our efforts must be rooted in peace and regard for our community. I want to thank the officers of the Boston Police Department and all of the public safety agencies for their professionalism tonight. They are working hard, as they always do, to keep our city safe and treat our residents with respect. And I'll bring up the same point we talked a little while ago, Maria, that for the mayor to say, and there came into the city, to single out came into the city. So what does that mean? Are these,
I don't know.
Hired rebel rousers? I mean, is that what this is?
So you're looking right now, that's the Walgreens that we were watching, I believe it was a few hours ago, being totally looted, and then they were lighting toilet paper on fire there, and that Walgreens was just a mess when we had our cameras looking inside those windows. And you see, obviously, that has stopped, and you see the presence there has shifted to this right now, and that's what you're looking at live at 1:45 in the morning. And you wonder if we did see all those people walk by Todd again. So there are still some areas where people are still out there. You see that right there.
George
yes,
Floyd.
I was just going to say that. It's with a heart, and that was the point of today, and that was the message that was trying to be sent today was that George Floyd was killed, and to make sure that never happened again. And then this, and then all of everything happened and turned, and the looting and destruction that we saw go through the streets of the city of Boston, places that we have walked through, places that we love, and that's what tonight ended up being, which is a shame.
And then as the mayor so accurately pointed out, and the governor accurately pointed out, the demonstrations and the rallies today were effective, and they were positive, and they were strong, and they were identifiable, and they were emotive, and they were all those things. But the coverage from now on is likely to become more focused on the fact that the city was destroyed. Not destroyed. The city was
parts of it
was ripped, and this happened tonight. And wouldn't the message be far greater if it's about George Floyd? Here's one person that's being escorted.
It is interesting when the protest ended, we said to each other, okay, well, that went well and it was peaceful, and we were standing by just in case, and then the just in case happened, and that's the tragedy of the message being lost in all of this. As you see, state police walking through the streets here and doing what they can to get calm and order to the city of Boston. And what we see now you see that there. But we don't know what's happening on other streets and around the corner and down the street, and it may flare up again right here, which is what we've witnessed all evening long. Just when you feel like order has been restored, something happens again.
And there have been other cities in the country where it wasn't just tonight, it's tomorrow night, it's the next night, it's as soon as the sun goes down. So there are questions that need to be addressed. There are points that need to be addressed. That's the same guy, by the way, that just walked past us when he was being escorted out.
Right. And the cars continue on the streets of Boston, and there are certainly plenty of them, more than we have seen in the past month during the day. And this is 1:15 in the morning. And there are a lot of cars and still some people out on the streets of Boston.
And as we've told you, and you know, we remind you, it is June 1st, and at this date, 25% of businesses in Boston can begin to reopen. Not that they all will, but 25% can. So we begin to expand the footprint in the city in a matter of hours. And yet, what is this city that they're going to be coming into?
All right, let's go to our Sean Chayabat. So, Sean, hopefully a much different scene than the last time when we saw you.
Yeah, that's right. What a difference just a few minutes make, and what a difference just a few police vehicles make. This row of 4 or 5 police vehicles pulled up to Copley Place here, and the throngs of looters that were stealing from the mall scattered very quickly. And so I want you to take a look at some video that we shot earlier as all of those looters were going in and out of that mall, literally carrying armfuls of stolen merchandise from Neiman Marcus and presumably other stores here, obviously taking high-end items out of this mall. There was no regard for the rule of law. There were police that had earlier driven by, and these looters would look at them and just keep walking, sauntering away to their vehicles that they had parked along the side of the road to come in and shop, essentially. Come in as if this was a free day for them. You keep on talking about the message that is lost here, and I said it before, I'm going to say it again. For the people who were marching, they were marching peaceably. They were marching peaceably, and they had a message that they wanted to convey. And for them to see this on live television, looters, clearly with no message other than to vandalize and steal, that is not the message that the thousands upon thousands of people took to the streets to earlier today for. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Sean. The Attorney General Maura Healey has tweeted, you've heard from the governor and the mayor, the Attorney General saying, in part, I won't read the whole thing, she said in part, I know this, the violent looters, the instigators that seek to interfere with this movement will not be successful. That's what the Attorney General Maura Healey said tonight.
Let's go to our Todd Kaskevich, who is standing by live. And Todd, you said things were still tense just a short time ago. How are they now?
Sorry, Maria, I didn't catch the question. It's still a little loud here, but what I can tell you is we're here on Boylston Street. Behind me, you see the National Guard, military police, Humvees, which gives you a sense of how serious of a situation this is tonight. As we know, the National Guard has been activated, has been deployed, and at this point, things are pretty quiet here on Boylston Street. We're not seeing a whole lot of rioters or demonstrators, if you will, at this point. It's mainly just police. The situation is now largely under control here. Things are getting a little quieter. Behind us, we were showing you Crate and Barrel earlier. They're nearly finished boarding that up at this point. Obviously, there had been some damage here earlier in the evening, and so they've just been working on that. You see the National Guard guarding this scene, and you see this all along Boylston Street and Newbury Street as well. Again, a large police presence continuing here in the city tonight to get the situation under control and to get order restored. Ed, Maria?
All right, Todd, thank you very much. Todd Kaskevich, who has been all around the city tonight, as have our reporters, by the way, have done a wonderful job of sitting on top of what it is, an unplanned event, unplanned episode. So, it suddenly became such a flashpoint moment. That's the state police, I believe, that's walking away. Yeah.
Yep.
Along with Boston police on the
Boston
bikes.
Police.
Yeah.
And really, police personnel from all areas, and they all had to come out and help because things really got out of control pretty quickly. You're looking at Chinatown right now, the Chinatown area right there, and of course right around the corner is where Emerson College is, and we saw so many things happen in that area. Really, we saw so many things happen in so many streets of Boston, and look at this.
Look how that whole street has just been narrowed just by the trash.
Right. Trash, and we saw trash being lit on fire, and just really just a very active evening in Boston, and it's going well into the morning as you see the police personnel making their way through the streets of Boston and hopefully having things start to calm down. And still a lot of traffic on these streets.
And a lot of heads. I see a lot of heads, Maria. I see on the left, you see the state police walking away. In the middle, you can see the Boston police on the bicycle. On the right, you can see people who are obviously not police officers. There's a guy here in the foreground. So there's still a lot of heads on the street.
So as they continue to walk through these streets of Boston, as far as we know, things are starting to calm down in the areas that we saw that had escalated so many times, and all of those flare-ups and all of that looting. So hopefully this is a good sign that things are now starting to go back to normal. That's the Tufts building right there. So some of the things we were witnessing was police vehicles that were burning, and demonstrators were setting them on fire, and that happened. They destroyed that vehicle, and then they set it on fire, and that was the end result of that. And all of these stores started getting broken into.
Yeah, looters stealing and running away with what they could. They were just completely disregard the fact that our camera is right in front of them, and yet they were doing that. Boston police forced to use tear gas on unruly crowds as well. Another store was broken into, and there was a point in time when the breaking into became so frequent. This is the use of the tear gas. The police would launch the tear gas, and then the protesters would just throw it back at police. That exchange went on for a good handful of minutes tonight as well. And then this is the Timberland shoe store downtown that was broken into.
That was one of the first stores that
was one of the
we
first
saw.
ones, yeah.
So again, the protest was up at the State House, went down the street, went into downtown Crossing, and that's one of the stores right there. And Ed had said, Ed, I would say 5 hours ago, you said that Macy's was boarded up before the protest even took place.
Before the protest even started, they had boarded up. They had done it out of whatever the reason they had behind. They decided to do it, and whether it was prescient or not, nonetheless, they did it.
They did indeed. And again, live look right now. This is the Chinatown area, and cars still trying to get through. Police still walking through the streets here, and we are not seeing a lot of activity in terms of any sort of interaction between police and protesters anymore, police and looters anymore. That does not mean that is not happening, but what we have been looking at for the past few minutes is certainly encouraging that things have started to calm down in the city of Boston.
And I would imagine navigating around the city, obviously, is a bit difficult for a passenger vehicle because you have a lot of official vehicles on the road. You have look at this one, for example. You have the trash dump right in front that takes up 2 lanes, so you can't get through. So and plus, the police have closed off a lot of streets, so trying to get through the area is going to be limited and difficult.
Let's get to our Sean Chayabat, who is right in front of Copley Square right there. You're across the street, Sean. Boy, you've had quite a journey yourself today, where you were with the protesters from the very beginning, made your way all the way up to the State House, and now at just about 1 o'clock in the morning, you stand in front of a place that was looted and vandalized.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I just heard you, Maria, talking about how quiet it does appear here in the city of Boston, and I have not heard a siren for the last 10 minutes, and that is good news. Hopefully that means that things are tamping down. Up there's a siren as I speak, but I'm standing in front of, obviously, Copley Place, where we have seen looter after looter after looter going in to steal whatever they wanted. But this is the scene right now where you see, obviously, we have secured the mall. But after how long, I don't know. We had been here for well over half an hour and seeing, dozens upon dozens of people going in, taking what they wanted, and reckless abandon, essentially, without any regard for the rule of law. And so now that the mall has been secured, it does appear as though not a soul is here. And it does look like police and National Guard are about to leave, which that might be a good sign that things are calming down here in the city.
Well, they're not calming down right here, right by the Boston Public Library. As you're looking live right now, and we just saw police going after someone right here, and that person is now on the ground. We don't know what led up to this. We don't know exactly what happened, but this is what we're looking at altogether.
This was addressed quickly, too.
It was.
They were able to get him down around the corner, and they kept the other people away from it as well. So they were easily in control of that situation, and they have him.
Again, we don't know what led up
Right.
to that.
Right.
This is, there's that Walgreens again. Still cars on the streets, people still milling about. But this has taken yet another turn.
We want to take you he's going to be loaded into this transport van. So as he does that, let's show you what has happened in other parts, because we've mentioned this, not only Boston where these things are happening. For example, we're going to take you to Washington, D.C., where there were also protests and demonstrations tonight. This is near the White House, and one of a number of fires that were set nearby. Police say that the fires were intentionally set. Demonstrations continued well past the curfew, which was 11 o'clock in Washington, D.C. Again, that's Washington, D.C., and that's videotape from earlier this evening.
So again, we know that these protests have happened all across the country, as Ed just showed, and the protest here in Boston is going well into the morning at 1 o'clock this morning, and you see someone being taken into custody right there, having a discussion. We do not know what led up to that, to this moment that you're looking at right here, and he's about to go in, I believe. So Boston Police, the National Guard, Mass State Police, police really from all local areas. We saw Revere Police, Lexington Police, Bedford Police, everybody. They are assisting with Boston Police after this night took a wild turn in the city of Boston.
They follow procedure, they frisk them out, and then put them in the back of the van. We've reached 1 o'clock in the morning, and Maria, what? 9 o'clock, 4 hours ago. We were looking at
What was supposed to be the end of the protest.
there was a lovely shot that we saw from the helicopter that showed that people with their cell phone lights on. It seemed to be a grand finish to what was going on today. And then
Celtics players were there, Ennis Cantor was there, Marcus Smart was there, and they were talking, and we were talking about how Jaylen Brown drove all the way down to Atlanta, had a peaceful protest there, and the protest in Boston was peaceful up until a moment. And then it took a turn, as we now know, as we've been showing you for hours now here live on WCVB. We appreciate you staying with us and looking at all of these images as we take you through this really unprecedented night here in Boston.
An ugly turn doesn't even begin to describe it. I mean, it was at times. Sharman Cicchetti mentioned frankly and freely, at times it was a scary time out of the street.
Well, when Sharma was out there in front of the State House, she had her microphone someone tried to grab it twice. And so people were going at Charmin as well. And then while we were talking live with Peter Eliopoulos, we saw people getting hit by a car. It's just mind-boggling, all of the different layers of things that happened this evening. It truly is. And then all the looting we watched live. And we're continuing to watch live right now. This is the Walgreens that was looted heavily live right here on Channel 5. And now it is a scene of calm because nobody's there anymore except the law enforcement presence.
But the scars from tonight are visible. In front of that Walgreens, there's plenty of product that's just all over the street. Just down the street from this camera here to the right, there are trash all over the street. There are plenty of scars that are visible.
A lot of graffiti as well. You thought maybe you just see maybe some signs littering the streets, but now what we see littering the streets are the remnants of boxes that people were stealing out of stores, that some people were stealing out of stores, and that's what this has turned to. And again, the original message was certainly not meant to be this. And yet this is what we're left with right now. A live look right now from the chopper as you see more vehicles crawling their way through the streets of Boston and the police presence still standing there.
Well, the message is supposed to be, you see that on the kind of in the middle leftish of the screen, that marquee, the light is out right now, that says hashtag George Floyd, and it had a heart on it.
Right.
That's the message. That's the name that was to be presented. This is the cause. This is the thought. This is the person behind why this issue matters. Another one. It's not just the only one. It's just another person's name in a long list, sadly, of names of people whose lives have been lost.
And again, protests like this all across the country and beyond.
And they've been loud all across the country. They were loud here tonight. They've been loud all across the country.
Philadelphia, that was a definite hotspot this evening. We just showed you Washington, D.C., and we have our very own images here in Boston, unfortunately, that this is what it turned into.
They're obviously not letting cars go straight on. I mean, if you were going to go, you can't go straight on. They're trying to force you out of the city or force you to certain areas. They don't want you. They don't want you going anywhere where they don't want you to go right now.
No, you're right. And it is interesting because if you think about all of the people, and again, we don't know the crowd estimate, but all of the people who walked from New Beacon Square to the State House, did they call somebody and say, give me a ride, pick me up in Boston,
right,
make that happen, so that's why all the cars were there?
Maybe.
And then we unfortunately saw some of those vehicles go sit in front of stores and be cars that ended up being loaded up with stolen merchandise. And we saw that with our very own eyes. Store after store on downtown Crossing area, the Newbury Street area, Boylston Street area.
Yeah, you mentioned Newbury Street, the UGG store. The images from the UGG store showing it completely wiped out just showed you how quickly whomever went in there and got out of there.
And again, I mean, these are businesses that haven't even been at full capacity anyway,
right,
and they've lost so much money because of the coronavirus pandemic. Some of them have been shut down, and so the economic devastation certainly taking a toll, as well as the emotional devastation on a message that was trying to be sent, and a message that for some people has been lost. Let's go to our Todd Kaskevich, who is live right now. Todd.
We are here on Newbury Street, and this is something we just stumbled upon. Look at all these shoes here. We're not far from the UGG store, and clearly people carried out as much as they could and this is some of what they couldn't carry. You look at the bottom, the sticker is still there. I think this is retailing for about, what does that say, $85. So this is the kind of merchandise people were just literally pilfering like it didn't mean anything. They were just smashing the glass, breaking into stores. I want to show you something over here on the sidewalk as well. You see more flip-flops over here. But then look at the stack. These are just bags from Uggs from the store. People were stealing everything, including the bags, and putting the merchandise in the bags as if they had been shopping and as if they had been paying for what they took. So that gives you a sense of some of what we've seen here on Newbury Street and on Boylston Street tonight, but things are finally calming down from what we can see. Obviously, behind me to my left, a very large police presence continues here as well. So the protests that we saw that were frankly uncontrolled earlier, I should say not protests. The protests were peaceful. At some point, the protests turned into riots and looting, and this is the aftermath of that. That has now ceased, and order is finally being restored here in the city. But as we've been saying for the past couple hours or so, there is so much damage and so much economic loss for all of these businesses, and a lot of these are small businesses, and they're going to have to be counting that loss tomorrow on top of everything they've lost over the past couple of months because of the pandemic, which is the reason why so many of the people who were protesting peacefully today decided to go into situations where they were in crowds. And even though they were wearing masks, they clearly were not social distancing. But they felt that the cause was strong enough that it was important for them to be there. So that's a sense of some of what we're seeing here tonight on Newbury Street. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Todd Kaskevich, thank you so much. So as we take you live again from an image from our chopper right here, you see police now on the move, getting back on their bicycles. Interesting, this is how the evening began, right around 9 o'clock, where you saw Boston police officers on their bicycles, and then things quickly escalated, and then everything changed, and we saw them on motorcycles and putting on those on much
gas
different
masks,
gear, gas masks, etc. So as we look live right now, they are on the move, and this has been quite a night in the city of Boston.
It is 1:08 in the morning on Monday, June 1st. This all started Sunday with a planned protest. Demonstrators gathered in Nubian Square in Roxbury. This is part of that protest. Participants marching along the nearly 3-mile route to the State House on a brilliant spring night. All of this prompted by the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. He died after a police officer forced his knee into his neck for minutes.
This was just a small portion of the crowd that gathered at the State House for the end of that protest. And there were so many people there in that event that area just couldn't handle them all. So that's when people started spilling out onto side streets.
And eventually it took a turn and changed from a peaceful march and protest to something dramatically different. Destruction, looting, police vehicles surrounded, smashed, and in that case, set on fire.
And then this really poignant moment, that was a poignant moment there when everybody was just lifting up their cell phones, and it was silent. It was silent. And then things took this turn right here, as you see people going into stores, taking things that did not belong to them, damaging, destructive behavior here, smashing windows, and we saw this scene repeated over and over and over again this evening.
Many streets in the city affected by it, many areas in the city affected by it. Cars all over the city. The dog, the police department, all over trying to respond to what was happening in the city. And now back live. This is what it looks like at almost 1:10 in the morning. Those bicycle vehicles, those powered vehicles are on their way back as the city of Boston tries to put itself back together and get up for business on Monday morning.
And of course, we will have complete coverage for you. Our morning news, of course, begins at 4:30. Our website, WCVB.com, and on our app as well. Thank you so much for being with us throughout this entire evening. We truly appreciate it.
A tip of the cap to our reporters who put up and did a wonderful, magnificent grade A performance. And our photographers, we have the best crews in the business. Thanks for watching. The Eye Opener starts in a little over 3 hours.
Be safe, be well.
Oh, I think it's my loan officer calling me back.
It's Saturday.
Hello?
Banks don't do that.
I replaced my debit card the same day. It's got the chip, it's got my name on it and everything. Banks don't do that.
Oh, man, you're gonna eat those fees, huh? Nah, I get reimbursed for the other bank's fees too. Banks don't do that. Yes, they do. No, they don't. Yes, they do. No, they don't. They do. Correction.
I'm
no,
telling
they
you
don't.
right now, they do.
Absolutely not.
The doctor said, Ms. McLeod, you had breast cancer. The most traumatizing part was when your hair started falling out. If you're a woman of color who wears your hair natural, it's very, very difficult to try to find a wig. Dana-Farber listened and said, let's make this happen. The dollars that people contributed to the Jimmy Fund helped me feel normal. It's the most calming, warm hug of a place. My name is Cheryl, and I am Jimmy.
Give to the Jimmy Fund and support Dana-Farber. What we do here changes lives everywhere.
With optional fall detection, the Lively Mobile Plus will call for help automatically if it senses a fall.